Born into an empire worth tens of millions, educated in schools most families spend years saving for, surrounded by luxury from the moment he took his first breath, J. Prince Jr. had the type of head start that should have led to boardrooms and business deals. Instead, he built his name moving through Houston's grittiest blocks, becoming one of the culture's most puzzling figures. This is what happens when extreme privilege collides with street credibility. The Rap-A-Lot throne was J. Prince Jr.'s birthright. His father, J. Prince Sr., came from absolutely nothing, grinding his way out of Fifth Ward's most violent projects to construct a southern rap empire valued at over $50 million. That machine launched careers for artists like Scarface and Ghetto Boys, setting the foundation for an entire regional sound. But the son's experience, completely different universe. While J. Prince Sr. survived poverty and danger to build something lasting, Jr. entered a world already built. His childhood consisted of premium educational institutions, designer vehicles most adults couldn't afford, and direct access to power players across entertainment. The family's reach extended everywhere, from high-level collaborations with Drake to personal relationships with Floyd Mayweather. Jr.'s formative years unfolded behind mansion gates, complete with round-the-clock staff, specialized tutoring, and entry into country clubs where Houston's working class wouldn't even be allowed past the parking lot. The generational gap between father and son represented two completely opposite American experiences. Houston shaped J. Prince Jr. in contradictory ways. On one side sat his father's multi-million-dollar operation, completely legitimate and respected. On the other, the intimidating street presence that made visiting artists show deference to the Prince name. J. Prince Sr. pioneered what became known as the check-in protocol. Rappers coming through Houston had to acknowledge the family out of respect. For the father, this meant protection and business opportunities. For the son, watching closely, he was absorbing how to turn that same respect into something more aggressive. Jr. existed in both realities simultaneously: corporate conference rooms and rough neighborhood corners, elite academic halls and street-level maneuvering. This duality wasn't something he developed, it was embedded in him from birth. Most Houston kids attended overcrowded, underfunded public institutions fighting for basic resources. J. Prince Jr., he walked through the doors of the city's most prestigious private academies. Think institutions charging anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 annually per kid. Picture parking areas packed with luxury rides operated by teenagers where typical household earnings hit 7 figures, and where networking at 15 creates connections lasting decades. The advantages stacked up endlessly: intimate classroom settings with globally recognized educators, cutting-edge campus resources, academic pathways most children never encounter, advanced curriculum options, international study experiences, university preparation programs practically guaranteeing acceptance into America's top colleges. His peers, sons and daughters of petroleum industry leaders, technology innovators, and families holding Houston wealth for generations. This educational foundation traditionally paves roads toward Ivy League acceptance, executive positions at major corporations, and sustainable multi-generational prosperity through completely legal channels. Yet something unexpected happened. Despite every privilege imaginable, Jr. gravitated toward the rough environment his father fought desperately to leave behind. While his schoolmates mapped out university choices and secured positions at family businesses, he absorbed his father's old street narratives, studying the reputation that initially funded everything they had. Elite education met street mentality. His instructors likely never predicted this polished, well-spoken kid from one of Houston's powerhouse families would eventually orchestrate gambling schemes targeting famous people. They envisioned traditional success, maybe heading a corporation, entering politics, or leading charitable foundations. The instructors had no clue they were grooming someone who'd twist all that privilege into a toolkit for running schemes on people. Flash forward to his teenage years. Jr.'s life at 16 looked like retirement goals for successful 40-year-olds. Jewelry pieces outpricing what average earners drop on vehicles. Fashion labels so niche you'd need a translator just to say them right. Invitations to gatherings where your net worth is just the entry fee. You still need the right connections to actually walk in. Imagine dropping wedding-level cash on a kid's birthday party. That graduation present probably came with a title, registration, and a price tag hitting multiple zeros before the decimal point. But here's what really mattered: the experiences reshaping how he saw the world. Chartering flights on a whim, walking past security at sold-out concerts and championship games, sitting across tables from household names and label heads making 8-figure decisions. This kid navigated life with a crown nobody officially gave him, ruling territory his father built from raw ambition and calculated moves. The real education, though? Learning that combining wealth with the right amount of pressure meant absolutely nothing was off limits. Growing up inside the family fortress felt surreal. Think sprawling Texas property with buildings dotting the landscape, protected by systems that'd make federal agencies nod with approval. Full courts indoors, aquatic setups, cinema quality screening setups, and enough rare automobiles stored away to stock a showroom floor. This wasn't just having money, this was converting influence into physical space that announced dominance without saying a word. The compound doubled as headquarters. Junior watched his old man run operations from home, observing how Houston's respect economy actually functioned, major recording artists stopping through, label negotiations happening in living rooms, strategic power plays unfolding in real time. But the curriculum went beyond legitimate business. He caught the unspoken parts too, when charm shifted to coercion, when suggestions carried weight beyond their words, how reputation alone could move the same money as actual contracts. Other wealthy teenagers killed time on consoles and social media. Junior got a PhD in manipulation from someone who literally wrote the playbook, reading micro expressions, constructing false intimacy, pulling people close specifically to position them for the take. Elite schools don't cover this material. This was graduate level street strategy taught by a professor with decades perfecting the craft. Present day, J. Prince Jr. holds down what he brands his upgraded hood castle, $1 million setup sitting right inside 5th Ward boundaries. No running to safe suburban bubbles for this heir. He deliberately staked his claim in the rough terrain, just rolling infinitely harder than everyone around him. Picture resort-level amenities existing where his father once fought to survive. Everything about the spot screams intentional contradiction. Premium security, custom-built structures, amenities ripped from luxury lifestyle publications, all dropped in a zip code most wealthy people actively avoid. Houston's elite neighborhood sat wide open for purchase. River Oaks, Memorial, any of them. But 5th Ward got chosen instead. The statement lands perfectly. Resources for anywhere. Loyalty to right here. Check the garage situation. Looks like somebody robbed an exotic dealership and parked everything at home. Rolls Royce after Rolls Royce filling up the space. $250,000 to $500,000 machines just sitting there. Phantoms, Cullinans, ghosts lined up like a collection. Rolling wealth on 4 wheels. Each vehicle broadcasts a message without saying a word. The Cybertruck alone, still scarce despite the price tag hovering around 6 figures, makes most people's jaws drop, but that's entry level compared to what sits in rotation. Multiple supercars from McLaren's catalog, each commanding $350,000 minimum. Bentleys parked casually despite $250,000 valuations. Then there's machinery so exclusive that even car enthusiasts struggle to identify it. The real flex? None of it stays locked away. Everything sits exposed on 5th Ward asphalt like it's a Honda Civic. Most collectors build temperature-controlled bunkers with armed security for vehicles worth a fraction of this. Junior leaves millions parked curbside in an area where poverty and desperation run deep. It's not recklessness, it's theater. The performance communicates one thing: untouchable status so complete that consequences don't exist. Switch gears to what he wears. Timepieces on his wrist could fund college educations. We're discussing horological pieces from Audemar's Piguet, Richard Mille, Patek Philippe. Brands where entry-level models start at $50,000 and the rare pieces climb past $500,000. His rotation probably represents 7 figures just in watches, the chains, custom work running $150,000 to $250,000 per piece, each one designed specifically for him, carrying symbolism only insiders understand. Property holdings extend beyond the 5th Ward compound, commercial spaces generating passive income across Houston, residential buildings in neighborhoods experiencing gentrification where property values triple in 5-year windows, land acquisitions scattered strategically throughout the metro area. J. Prince Sr. preached real estate as the foundation of lasting wealth, and Jr. absorbed that lesson completely, systematically acquiring Houston geography piece by piece. Conservative estimates place his property empire north of $20 million, scattered across numerous holdings citywide. The portfolio stays growing as Houston's market shifts and new opportunities pop up. Junior's daily grind don't respect boundaries most folks keep separate. Mornings kick off inside his upgraded fortress, running plays from a command center stacked with tech that'd make Fortune 500 execs jealous. Come nightfall, he's planted in the neighborhood, visible and moving around, keeping connections alive that cash alone can't buy. This split existence, one foot in business meetings, the other on the pavement, creates something genuinely concerning. When corporate level resources back hood mentality, you get unpredictable outcomes. His day-to-day covers everything from watching over property investments and monitoring his pop's expanding operations to coordinating street moves with his crew. Still, he makes sure to physically slide through Fifth Ward regularly, proving wealth ain't create separation from where he came up. The whole setup reinforces a carefully crafted image. Got bred to bounce anywhere but choosing to stay locked in. When the situation calls for it, Junior moves with professional muscle that costs serious bread. Ex-military cats, off-duty police, trained security specialists pulling thousands per day. These ain't just big dudes standing around, they're certified professionals trained in crowd management, threat evaluation, the whole nine. The twist though? He'll send security home when he wants to prove he can walk through solo. It's all theater reinforcing the persona he built. The Prince name unlocks doors in entertainment, sports management, and industries most people never touch. Junior could coast off legitimate ventures forever without bending a single rule. His father's $50 million operation provides a foundation letting him chase any legal business move he wanted. Tech investments, restaurant chains, entertainment projects, whatever. But Junior flipped his father's check-in tradition into something way more profitable and riskier. Artists rolling through Houston know they need to connect with the Prince family. What started as showing respect evolved into a calculated money operation. Junior leverages the family reputation to access wealthy artists, then engineers situations where they feel pressured to show financial appreciation. This is where privileged upbringing collides with street ambitions in the most dangerous way. He runs high-stakes dice sessions for visiting celebrities, using his family name and luxury setup to make artists feel comfortable. These ain't casual games between homies, they're psychological operations designed to separate successful people from their money. Junior and his squad study their targets, identify weaknesses, then use Southern hospitality to drop their defenses before the real game starts. The dice operation runs like a legit corporation with departments and specialized positions. Junior don't move solo. He built a sophisticated crew with specific roles. Lil Cam handles the actual dice work. Wolf brings muscle and intimidation when necessary. Big Capri keeps everything feeling light and friendly. This ain't amateur hour street hustle. These are professional operators trained to exploit successful entertainers' specific blind spots. What makes Junior's whole setup so effective is weaponizing his privileged background. When he approaches someone, he's not some random trying to run game. He's hip-hop royalty with legitimate claim to respect. That automatic credibility bypasses people's normal defenses. Artists let their guard down thinking they're dealing with family, not realizing they're getting positioned by someone who learned manipulation from a master. Here's what makes J. Prince Jr. so fascinating and frustrating simultaneously. Had every possible advantage, still chose the most dangerous route available. While his private school classmates became doctors, lawyers, and executives, Jr. perfected celebrity exploitation tactics. Could have been anything. Legitimate mogul, philanthropist, bridge between streets and corporate world, instead chose to be a predator. The contradiction runs deeper than career choices though. Junior desperately wants recognition as a street legend like his father. Reality is he's never struggled for anything. His pops came from absolute zero and constructed an empire purely off survival instinct and necessity. Every single decision J. Prince Sr. made centered around breaking free from poverty and opening doors for his people. Junior inherited the whole operation and decided to gamble it all chasing street validation he didn't require and honestly couldn't authentically acquire. Picture somebody holding a winning ticket worth millions deciding to stick up convenience stores for the adrenaline rush. Generational wealth sat in his lap. Elite education shaped his mind. Legitimate business pathways most folks can't even conceptualize were available. But rather than expanding what his father built, he twisted it into something corrupt. Rather than leveraging his advantages to uplift people, he weaponized them to exploit whoever got close. The family legacy angle makes this situation even more heartbreaking. Junior's moves have stained his father's name in ways that might never wash clean. J. Prince Sr. earned respect protecting artists and constructing legal enterprises. People honored him because he elevated others and created real opportunities. Junior grabbed that identical reputation and deployed it to run schemes on artists while operating criminal setups. He's walking proof of how unchecked privilege can mutate into something genuinely hazardous. The psychological component might be the most disturbing element here. Had every conceivable advantage: money purchases, premium education, industry access, powerful connections, unlimited resources, still felt compelled to validate himself through violence and illegal activity, points to deep insecurity and internal emptiness that no amount of wealth could address. Possessed everything except the singular thing he craved most: respect earned through genuine adversity. J. Prince Jr. represents possibly hip-hop's most devastating example of squandered potential. Access to a multi-million-dollar operation, elite training, entertainment industry connections, every privilege imaginable, could have evolved into a legitimate business powerhouse, positive community influence, or connector between street culture and mainstream corporate structures. Instead morphed into a predator, targeting the exact artists his father's generation fought to safeguard. The actual price tag on Junior's lifestyle transcends dollar amounts. It's measured in destroyed lives. Duke the jeweler and Takeoff lost their lives because Junior prioritized his image over human existence. Multiple families shattered, careers derailed permanently. Houston's entire hip-hop ecosystem poisoned, all stemming from someone blessed with everything, gambling it away, chasing credibility he couldn't authentically earn and never genuinely needed. Maybe the most painful aspect involves how Junior's actions contaminated what his father spent decades building. J. Prince Sr. constructed his legacy protecting talent, launching legitimate ventures, opening pathways for others, commanded respect because he wielded power to lift people up and manufacture success opportunities. Junior inherited that same standing and corrupted it, preying on artists, managing criminal operations, obliterating chances for others, living proof that privilege divorced from purpose breeds danger. The psychological tragedy here? Junior possessed every logical reason to win legitimately, plus every tool necessary to make it happen. Chose chaos over construction though, destruction instead of development. His prestigious education equipped him to build literally anything. His father's foundation could launch any legal venture imaginable. Family connections granted access to opportunities regular people never encounter. None of it satisfied him though. Needed validation through fear, control over others, proof he transcended just being his daddy's rich kid. Junior's situation serves as cautionary evidence of what unfolds when privilege collides with street dynamics minus wisdom steering the combination. Hand someone every advantage existence offers, watch them deliberately select the most destructive route available, results turn catastrophic. Had legitimate reasons to win plus resources ensuring victory, but chose weaponizing his advantages against people rather than constructing something meaningful. The federal case currently forming around Junior's operation threatens annihilating everything his family constructed across multiple decades. RICO investigations don't just chase individuals, they dismantle entire organizations plus everyone touching them. If Junior's criminal moves collapse his father's legitimate empire, it'll mark one of hip-hop's most spectacular self-destructions ever documented. Tragic demonstration proving wealth minus wisdom carries more danger than poverty ever could. J. Prince Jr. possessed it all. Financial security, world-class training, industry connections, unlimited opportunities, threw everything away chasing reputation that was never authentically his from the beginning. What's wild is watching this play out in real time while Houston's hip-hop community stays caught in the middle. Artists still gotta navigate the city, still gotta show face, still gotta balance respect with self-preservation. The checking in culture his pops established as protection evolved into something that feels more like taxation. Visiting rappers face an impossible choice: pay respect and potentially get caught up in games they can't win, or skip Houston entirely and risk disrespecting a legacy that predates most of their careers. The ripple effects extend way beyond dice games and jewelry robberies. Younger cats coming up in Houston now operate under a shadow they didn't create. They're watching someone with every advantage imaginable choose the absolute worst path forward, and some see it as a blueprint rather than a warning. That's the real damage, when privilege masquerading as street credibility becomes something to aspire toward. Kids from actual struggle seeing someone who never experienced poverty cosplay as hood royalty and thinking that's the move. Meanwhile, legitimate business opportunities in Houston's hip-hop scene get complicated because nobody knows where the line sits anymore. Is this a real business meeting or a setup? Is this genuine industry networking or a prelude to extortion? The paranoia Junior's operation created poisons wells his father spent 30 years digging. Partnerships that could benefit the whole city don't happen because trust evaporated. The federal attention circling this whole situation isn't going anywhere either. Investigations like this move slow but thorough. Every transaction gets examined, every associate becomes a potential witness, every phone call potentially recorded. The machinery grinding toward indictments doesn't care about legacy or family name or how much legitimate business exists alongside illegal operations. It just processes evidence and builds cases. What makes it especially tragic is how preventable all this was. Junior didn't stumble into criminality because circumstances forced his hand. He chose it deliberately, consistently, repeatedly. Despite having exit ramps available at every turn, the education to pursue anything, the capital to fund any venture, the connections to open any door, instead of building something his kids could inherit with pride, he's constructing a case file that might consume his entire family's empire. And through it all, he keeps performing the same role: hood rich, street connected, untouchable, posting up in Fifth Ward like he earned the right through struggle rather than inheritance. The performance continues even as the walls close in because admitting the truth that he's a privileged kid playing dress up in his father's reputation would shatter the entire illusion he spent years constructing.
The Alphabet Boys, the Feds, the FBI, the ATF, who knows? They're coming for the Prince family, okay? He posted, Wack posted, this has been reposted on Truth Teller TV. It says, "Welp, my Houston back door just tapped in." Pause. Seems to me like old J Prince, respect, done scolded old Junior, J Prince Jr.
Wack 100 sat there, staring straight through that lens with the kind of weight only someone who's been deep in the trenches carries. This isn't some blogger typing from their apartment or gossip spreading through group chats. We're talking about someone who's actually been in those rooms where things get real, who's looked dangerous people in the eye for 3 decades in this hip-hop world. And what did he say? That federal authorities have their attention locked onto J Prince and his boy. Not speculation, not street whispers, hard facts coming from someone who knows the cost of speaking carelessly. Both of J Prince's sons, that's Jazz Prince and J Prince Jr., are now tangled up in what's being called a federal RICO case. Let that sink in for a second. RICO. That's the same weapon the feds used to bring down the Gotti empire, the identical tool they deployed against the gangster disciples. We're discussing the kind of legal machinery that allows investigators to weave together every transaction, every violent incident, every backroom agreement, every conversation into one sprawling criminal enterprise accusation. What separates this situation from your typical industry drama or beef analysis or shooting coverage? Actual casualties. We're not talking metaphorical deaths or career endings, real human beings who aren't here anymore. Confirmed fatalities that people throughout the streets, the music business, and apparently now federal courtrooms are tracing back to the Prince family's sphere of influence. Takeoff isn't with us anymore. The youngest Migos member, genuinely one of the most skilled rappers we've seen, got shot down at a dice game in Houston on November 1st, 2022, Houston being J Prince's home base. A dice game with connections to people in J Prince's circle. Duke the jeweler is gone too. This man knew everybody in hip-hop. He was the jeweler that major artists confided in, holding industry secrets because these rappers trusted him with their most expensive pieces and their private conversations. Shot dead in Atlanta, September 2nd, 2022. Duke had been running his mouth. Duke was linked to active legal matters. Duke possessed information, and then suddenly Duke wasn't around anymore. Ben 10 got shot but made it through. The fact he's still breathing might actually be the most crucial piece of this whole puzzle, because Ben 10 has been vocal about claiming that J Prince and his organization orchestrated the hit on him. 3 separate incidents, 3 individuals moving in the same world, 1 federal investigation actively building a case. You need to understand something. To grasp how everything reached this point, we've got to rewind to Houston and really comprehend who James Prince is as a figure, because most people only know the sanitized version. When Drake and Pusha T were about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed in 2018, 1 phone call shut everything down. Not from a CEO, not from security teams, not even law enforcement intervention. James Prince ended it with a conversation. The biggest artist on earth at that time backed down because J Prince said so. That kind of influence doesn't come from selling records, it comes from decades of building something much deeper than a music company. Rap-A-Lot Records started in '86, which means J Prince was already establishing his foundation before most of the iconic labels even existed. Death Row? Still years away. Bad Boy didn't exist yet. Cash Money? Not even a thought. Meanwhile, Prince was operating out of Houston when nobody cared about Southern rap. Scarface became a legend because of the infrastructure Prince built. The Ghetto Boys broke through because he made it happen. He forced the industry to acknowledge the South existed, while New York still thought they owned hip-hop exclusively. But everybody who's been paying attention knows Rap-A-Lot functioned differently than traditional labels. Street dudes knew. Industry insiders knew. Based on what's happening now, federal investigators definitely knew. Prince maintained connections that reached into politics, sports, entertainment, and street networks stretching across multiple states. When he needed something done, it got done. When he wanted someone's attention, he got it immediately. That's leverage that transcends the music business entirely. We're talking about someone who commands respect through channels that have nothing to do with album sales or publishing deals. His two sons inherited pieces of that empire. Jazz Prince, the older one, gets credit for spotting Drake's potential early and connecting him with Lil Wayne's Cash Money operation. That discovery alone touched billions in revenue across the entire industry. The younger brother, J. Prince Jr., keeps a lower profile but operates deep within the family business structure. According to reports, federal investigators have all three of them, father and both sons, wrapped up in this RICO case. Here's what people need to grasp about how federal RICO cases actually work. These investigations aren't triggered by social media drama or random complaints. We're discussing surveillance operations that span years, potentially decades. Wiretaps, confidential informants, financial analysis, witness cooperation, mountains of evidence collection. When federal prosecutors finally decide to move forward with RICO charges, they've already constructed what they believe is an unbeatable case. They don't take swings they're unsure about. The fact that investigators allegedly have all three Prince family members in their sights simultaneously reveals something crucial. Authorities have been monitoring this operation as a unified structure for an extended period. They're not examining three random people, they're building a case against what they believe functions as a criminal organization. That's precisely what RICO legislation was created to dismantle. The Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act lets prosecutors demonstrate that multiple people knowingly participated in ongoing criminal conduct. The brilliant part, from their perspective, is you don't need to personally commit each crime, you just need to knowingly participate in the organization committing those crimes. Someone who never touches a weapon can still catch murder charges for ordering hits through their network. That's the entire framework. So when WAC 100 made his statement, he wasn't debating whether J. Prince had street credibility. He was announcing that the most powerful legal system on the planet had officially begun grinding its gears. Street rumors have circulated for months, honestly years, but now federal resources are involved. Early morning, November 1st, 2022, Houston, a venue called 810 Billiards and Bowling on Washington Avenue. Kershnik Kari Ball, Takeoff, 28 years old, 1/3 of Migos, someone universally described as drama-free, non-confrontational, wasn't involved in beefs, gets fatally shot at a private dice game. Patrick Xavier Clark eventually got arrested and charged with the murder, but mainstream coverage skipped over crucial context. This wasn't some spontaneous Houston gathering. High-stakes gambling happening in J. Prince's territory. Within the social infrastructure his crew has dominated for decades. The attendees, the organizers, how Takeoff even ended up present. Investigators immediately started examining these connections. Quavo was present, Takeoff was present. The chaos that erupted outside left a 28-year-old man who'd never been publicly connected to any conflict dead from multiple shots to his head and torso. Clark's attorneys tried claiming self-defense. Prosecutors argued he fired wildly after a gambling dispute, and Takeoff, who wasn't even involved in whatever argument sparked the shooting, caught bullets. But people in the streets were asking completely different questions. Why did this dice game happen at this specific location? Who actually set up this event? Who was there that created risk? Why were armed individuals at what was marketed as a private celebrity gathering? These questions linked Takeoff's death to broader investigations into Houston's criminal power structure. The industry's reaction to Takeoff's death felt strange. People who broadcast everything suddenly went completely silent. Artists who typically share condolences immediately were nowhere to be found. That silence communicated something specific. 2 months earlier, September 2nd, 2022, Atlanta, Duke the jeweler, born Zahir Thomas, gets shot dead. If you're unfamiliar with Duke's position in hip-hop, understand this. He wasn't just connected, he had genuine trusted relationships with major artists because they literally handed him their most valuable property. 6-figure chains, $1 million watches, custom pieces with personal significance beyond monetary value. When you trust someone with your jewelry, you're granting access to your entire world. They're entering your home, your studio, your hotel. They're witnessing your associates, your movements, your spending patterns. Duke had that level of access across different scenes: Atlanta trap artists, Houston rap figures, New York drill rappers, everyone. Duke also had specific ties to J. Prince's circle. Before his death, conversations were happening about financial issues, outstanding debts, information Duke potentially possessed that certain powerful individuals preferred stayed private. He got killed in Atlanta. Authorities investigated, but no charges materialized quickly. The case faded from public attention surprisingly fast, which seems suspicious for a murder in hip-hop's most documented city. What actually happened? Investigators examining the broader pattern of violence connected to the Prince organization flagged Duke's murder as potentially relevant. A jeweler with insider access to multiple major figures, executed in a city where business problems traditionally get resolved through violence. Duke possessed knowledge. He'd been in those rooms where real conversations go down. He held information, and then suddenly he wasn't around anymore. Now let's discuss Ben 10, because this is where everything intensifies. Ben 10 is still breathing and willing to speak, making him the most problematic factor in this entire situation for anyone hoping certain truths stay buried. Ben 10 moves in Houston street circles, the same ecosystem where J. Prince holds influence. He got shot but made it through. After recovering, Ben 10 didn't play it safe. He started making public statements, started pointing at specific people, started saying names, started making claims on camera and across social platforms. Things a person genuinely scared of payback wouldn't dare mention. Surviving an assassination attempt transforms you into testimony. You become living proof. You become the worst possible complication for whoever greenlit or executed that hit. Ben 10. Walking away from that shooting and then running his mouth is exactly the kind of situation that captures federal attention intensely. Why? Because Ben 10 represents a living witness with first-hand understanding of the operations, the players, and the motivations driving street violence in Houston. Violence tied to one of hip-hop's most influential figures. His name appearing in this narrative alongside Takeoff's killing and Duke's execution reveals something important. This federal probe into J. Prince extends beyond typical music industry extortion or money laundering. We're discussing violence, a documented pattern of violence. An alleged organization that supposedly deployed violence systematically to maintain dominance, silence potential witnesses, and remove threats. That's textbook RICO territory. 3 casualties, 1 recurring pattern, 1 alleged enterprise. Let's circle back to WAC 100, because his statement wasn't random gossip. It's a public confirmation from an industry insider who maintains deep connections to law enforcement, legal proceedings, and street intelligence. WAC 100 has been involved in major legal and street situations throughout hip-hop over recent years. He managed Blueface, he's been connected to various ongoing legal matters, he doesn't casually discuss federal investigations, he comprehends the gravity of federal involvement. When WAC 100 announced that federal authorities were targeting J. Prince and his sons, he delivered it with a precision and certainty that distinguishes real information from internet speculation or industry gossip. He spoke like someone who had received concrete intelligence, like someone who'd witnessed actual documentation, like someone ensuring the culture understood this wasn't about misdemeanor charges or local district attorney investigations. This was federal jurisdiction. This was RICO, and it targeted the entire Prince family structure. Consider what it requires to publicly make those accusations: courage or calculated strategy. Because J. Prince isn't someone you casually implicate in federal crimes on camera without understanding potential consequences. The fact WAC 100 proceeded anyway suggests either he had protective measures in place, or the federal investigation had progressed so far that the information was already beyond the point where staying quiet mattered. Regardless, the declaration was made. The information became public knowledge. Now the entire culture was locked in. People started piecing things together. Federal RICO investigations targeting music industry figures aren't new territory. The government has pursued rap labels previously. They've investigated management operations. They've dismantled distribution networks functioning as drug trafficking fronts. But a RICO case potentially linking multiple hip-hop figure murders to a singular criminal enterprise controlled by one of the culture's most respected and feared individuals, that's completely unprecedented in terms of scope and ramifications. What are federal investigators allegedly examining? Start with the money. Rap-A-Lot Records and his various business entities. We're discussing decades of transactions where legitimate music earnings potentially got mixed with funds from other sources. That boundary between legal revenue and questionable cash flow might have been intentionally kept unclear. They're also mapping relationships. J. Prince's network extends into street organizations throughout Texas, Georgia, and beyond state lines. How did conflicts get handled in his world? Business disagreements, personal problems, territory issues. When you overlay those resolutions against a timeline tracking deaths, shootings, people who vanished, certain patterns start becoming visible. Takeoff gets killed at a Houston gambling event linked to J. Prince's sphere. Duke the jeweler, someone with access to everybody's private world, gets murdered in Atlanta. Ben 10 catches bullets but lives to tell about it. 3 separate incidents. Federal investigators excel at constructing cases from connecting these incidents. The lyrical evidence component carries weight too. Numerous rappers across multiple years have referenced J. Prince's influence in their music, some coded, some direct, discussing his reach, what happens when people oppose his organization, the violence that exists quietly underneath legitimate business operations. When federal prosecutors assemble RICO cases, they utilize everything available. Song lyrics become exhibits, social media content becomes exhibits, public interviews become exhibits. Every artist who ever mentioned J. Prince's power in their verses just potentially added to a federal prosecutor's evidence collection. This investigation's impact is already rippling through the culture, and it's going to keep expanding. Consider every artist currently or previously connected to Rap-A-Lot Records or J. Prince's management and advisory network. Consider every deal where J. Prince played a role. Consider every conflict where J. Prince intervened and the situation got resolved in ways that helped one side while damaging another. All those individuals now potentially matter to federal investigators, not necessarily as targets, but as witnesses, information sources, people who might have seen or been involved in activities prosecutors need to understand. Drake's relationship with J. Prince traces back to when Jazz Prince discovered him. That connection has been publicly acknowledged and openly discussed. Drake isn't facing accusations, but his world crossed paths with J. Prince's world at significant moments, and federal investigators mapping an alleged criminal enterprise need to understand every point where those worlds intersected. That same logic extends to Lil Wayne. His Cash Money complications and everything that followed involved J. Prince's influence. Same goes for countless southern artists who've recorded with, partnered alongside, or moved through Rap-A-Lot's infrastructure anytime during the past 30 years. The music business maintains a complex dynamic with street authenticity versus legitimate operations. Record companies built on the foundation of street connections have always existed in ambiguous territory, where the separation between genuine cultural representation and actual organized crime gets intentionally obscured. J. Prince constructed Rap-A-Lot within that ambiguous space and maneuvered through it expertly for decades, but federal RICO prosecutions are specifically designed to erase ambiguity. They create a clear division. You're either participating in an organized criminal operation or you're not. Once that division gets established inside a federal courtroom, all the mythology evaporates and you're left facing hard evidence. Here's what this actually means beyond just the Prince family situation. Hip-hop has maintained an uncomfortable dynamic with violence forever, not the theatrical violence displayed in songs and visuals, the actual documented real-world violence that's taken too many artists' lives across the past 3 decades. Every major label executive right now is having private conversations about exposure. Not just legal exposure, cultural exposure, because if federal prosecutors successfully prove that one of hip-hop's most respected figures operated a criminal enterprise disguised as a music company for 30 years, that precedent changes everything. It opens doors to investigations into other operations that have existed in similar gray spaces, other powerful figures who've maintained influence through methods that extend beyond contracts and royalties. The culture has spent decades celebrating street authenticity while simultaneously pretending not to understand what that authenticity actually requires in practice. We glorify the mythology, the untouchable figure who commands respect, who makes calls that change outcomes, who operates above the rules that govern regular business. But when federal prosecutors start converting that mythology into criminal conspiracy charges, suddenly everyone involved has to reckon with what they were actually celebrating. Artists who've name-dropped J. Prince in verses to boost their credibility are now potentially providing evidence. Industry figures who've used their proximity to his power as social currency might find themselves explaining those relationships under oath. The entire ecosystem that benefited from his influence, whether directly or indirectly, now has to consider what happens when the foundation of that influence gets examined under federal scrutiny. What makes this different from previous investigations into hip-hop figures is the scope. We're not discussing one incident or one criminal allegation. According to what WAC 100 put out there, federal authorities are examining an entire organizational structure spanning decades, multiple states, Multiple alleged crimes, multiple casualties. That's not a case that gets resolved with a plea deal or a fine. That's a case designed to dismantle something completely. And here's what nobody's talking about enough: the cooperators. RICO cases live and die on testimony from people inside the organization who decide saving themselves matters more than loyalty. Someone close to the operation who's facing decades in prison has powerful motivation to start sharing information. Federal prosecutors are experts at applying that pressure. They isolate individuals, they present evidence of their involvement, they explain exactly how many years they're facing, then they offer a path out: cooperation. Once that cooperation starts, the entire structure becomes vulnerable, because these organizations rely on trust, on the understanding that everyone stays quiet regardless of consequences. When that breaks down, when someone decides their family seeing them free matters more than street code, everything unravels rapidly. The timing of this investigation matters too. We're in an era where law enforcement has tools and resources they've never had before: digital surveillance, financial tracking systems, data analysis capabilities that can map entire criminal networks from phone records and financial transactions. The same technology that makes it easier to build music careers makes it easier to build federal cases. J. Prince survived and thrived for decades operating in spaces where others got taken down. That's not luck. That required intelligence, discipline, and understanding exactly where lines existed. But federal investigators have been studying those same lines, mapping those same spaces, building cases that don't require catching someone in the act. They require proving the pattern, proving the enterprise, proving the knowing participation, whether these allegations result in charges, whether charges result in convictions, whether convictions stand up on appeal. Those are legal questions that could take years to resolve, but the cultural impact is already happening. The conversation has shifted, the scrutiny has intensified, the mythology that protected certain figures through reputation alone is colliding with federal prosecutorial power that doesn't care about reputation. Artists coming up right now are watching this unfold and making calculations about what authenticity actually costs. Label executives are reviewing their business relationships through a new lens. The entire infrastructure that connected street power to industry influence is being stress tested in ways it hasn't been before. That's the real story developing underneath the headlines about who's being investigated or what charges might come.
They're both transported to local hospitals right now, and they're both in very critical condition. So my name is Lieutenant R. Wilkins, Willkens.
NBA Youngboys affiliate Ben 10 is hooked up to life support machines right now after catching multiple bullets. The wild part, the person allegedly behind it went straight to browse diamonds afterwards. This story ain't about regular industry drama escalating. A Detroit cat named All-Star Jr., someone who wasn't even a blip on most people's radar until recently, is the focus. Word on the street is he was at a Houston restaurant when a group of dudes tried pressing him for his jewelry. During the altercation, he allegedly grabbed his piece and started firing off shots everywhere. 2 people ended up fighting for their lives in hospital beds, one being Ben 10, who's practically family to Youngboy. What happened next is where it gets crazy. Man allegedly hopped a flight back to Detroit, pulled up to get some jewelry work done, snapped photos for the gram with the whole carousel, then posted a caption that law enforcement is now investigating. Wild enough, he added an Instagram story. 2, we breaking down the full timeline, what happened at that Houston club, the botched robbery, the shooting, Youngboy's silence on everything, why J. Prince Jr. was apparently in the building, and those posts, the caption breakdown, hashtags included, every image, because this Detroit rapper essentially documented his own involvement, then reinforced it online. So All-Star Jr., who even is this person? Valid question since most folks drawing a blank. He ain't charting, got no mainstream recognition, no industry accomplishments to speak of. Detroit's underground scene though, different story entirely. His roots trace back to West Detroit's Joy Road before he shifted eastward. Single mother household shaped his upbringing, and Joy Road got a reputation for producing either broken people or dangerous ones. No middle ground in that environment. All Stars Ball Hard is the collective where he made his mark, mainly recognizable because T Grizzly's name attached to the crew. How this allegedly played out in Houston shows pure street mentality, not industry calculation. Those Instagram posts scream someone who genuinely don't care about consequences or who's paying attention. Ben 10's connection to Youngboy runs deeper than social media appearances. He's actually embedded in that operation, videos, tour life, all of it. Their bond existed before music even entered the picture. Back in 2025, there's reports Youngboy handed him $250,000 straight cash. So we talking about someone who's financially set, connected to major players, backed by arguably the most ride or die fan base in current rap culture. When Detroit's energy collided with Baton Rouge's energy inside Confessions nightclub, something bad was bound to happen. The Scene, Wednesday night pushing midnight, Houston's Upper Kirby neighborhood. Confessions sits on Kirby Drive's 3,200 block, not some hole-in-the-wall spot, but a recognized Houston establishment. People showing up in their best fits, chains out, bottles flowing freely. It's designed for people to be visible, which creates the exact vulnerability we're discussing here. Flashing expensive pieces under those lights when you're visiting from another city, that's just begging to get set up. Ben 10's Instagram story showed him in Houston looking relaxed, nothing indicating trouble ahead. Before sunrise, he was laid up in a hospital bed, barely hanging on. Here's the breakdown of what allegedly transpired at Confessions. All-Star Jr. flew in from Detroit, dripped out in expensive jewelry. The kind of iced out pieces that become a problem when you're not in the right environment. The type of chains you gotta tuck in certain hoods. Houston PD's Lieutenant R. Wilkins gave the official account. Several individuals cornered Jr. and went after what was hanging from his neck. Wasn't no low-key situation either. This was a full-blown stick-up going down inside the restaurant. Houston PD laid out what happened. Two dudes initially got on Jr., dropped him to the ground, started yanking his chains off. Then more people from their crew hopped in the mix. Now it's a whole squad putting hands on one man all at once. Complete ambush type situation. That's when everything switched up. Junior, still on the floor, getting stomped out, jewelry already taken, somehow got to his weapon and started letting it rip. Wasn't no precision shooting either, just wild shots going off while people still on him. Wilkins said it straight up. Dude pulled it out and just started firing with no aim. Nobody knows exactly how he reached it, but he did. No picking targets, no controlled shots. Just grabbed the strap and squeezed while bodies everywhere. Two people caught rounds. First person hit, believed to be NBA Ben 10, took multiple shots to his upper body, the type of situation that threatens your whole existence. Second person got hit in the legs and both arms multiple times. Also in serious condition, both got rushed to Houston hospitals. Fighting for survival, the whole restaurant went crazy. People diving anywhere they could hide, scrambling for any exit they could find, screaming everywhere. Footage from after it happened spread fast. People tucked under furniture, the spot looking destroyed. The wildest rumors started running rampant across the internet. Word was NBA, Ben 10 didn't make it. RIP posts flooding timelines, memorial threads getting created, Youngboy's fanbase in shambles in every comment section. Hip-hop social media spiraled into chaos mode because information was trickling out slow and everything pointed toward the worst. Then OG Monique, who's the mother of OG 33, pulled up to her Instagram story dropping a quick update. She kept it short. 10 is alert, stop spreading fake news. 4 words that calmed down a lot of panic. Alert meaning he breathing, conscious, still here. But notice what she didn't say. She ain't mentioned he was good or on the road to recovery. Just alert. There's a massive gap between being alive and being out of danger. Dude was still in serious condition, still hospitalized, still battling. At least he was responsive though. This is when people really started piecing things together. Once Ben's identity got confirmed and more details about the incident leaked out, the narrative switched from some random club shooting to something way more calculated. Social media accounts started throwing accusations at a Detroit rapper specifically. Then clips from the scene began making rounds online. But the craziest part about this, J. Prince Jr. was involved. This is pretty insane when you realize how many fatal hip-hop related situations are always involving J. Prince Jr. in some way, shape, or form. Let that marinate for a second. J. Prince Jr. supposedly there that night with the same people who allegedly went after All-Star Jr.'s jewelry. This ain't just some regular club beef no more. We potentially talking about J. Prince's whole operation being involved. Houston's most powerful figures allegedly caught up in a botched robbery on a Detroit cat who ain't hesitate to fire back. That J. Prince connection becomes real important when you peep what Junior ended up posting later. We getting to that though, the streets was going crazy with theories. Social media turned into amateur detectives, clipping footage, analyzing timestamps, zooming in, trying to identify faces. Meanwhile, Houston PD still ain't named nobody publicly. They had cameras, they had people who saw everything, they had 2 victims barely alive in hospital rooms, but no official suspect announcement yet. That's when All-Star Jr. made his move. Didn't just say something either, he went straight to Instagram with the most self-snitching, most provocative, most disrespectful approach imaginable. And this while the person he allegedly shot was still breathing through tubes in a hospital. DJ Academic spotted it first and put it on Front Street. All-Star Jr. dropped a whole carousel on Instagram showing off his jewelry, even released a music video flaunting those same pieces. All-Star Jr. didn't stop there though, since he basically incriminated himself in posts saying, "Thought he was mob ties till I popped him a few times." The type of content law enforcement screenshots and files away for trial preparation. The kind of material that transforms you from someone they watching to someone they actively building a case against real quick. Then on top of everything, he threw up an Instagram story, making it clear this wasn't no mistake or slip up. He meant every bit of it. Wasn't trying to be subtle, wasn't playing it safe. Dude was loud with it. I'm making sure everybody saw exactly what he wanted them to see. My man posted all this while authorities still ain't publicly named who they looking for. Investigation still wide open, knowing cameras everywhere catching everything he doing, and still went ahead with it. Either this the boldest move in rap social media, history, or the dumbest. It might be both at the same time. Now here's where the legal situation gets real complicated. This whole thing could go 2 completely different directions depending on how prosecutors and defense attorneys frame what happened that night. Self-defense route looking like this: All-Star Jr. was literally getting jumped by multiple dudes trying to rob him in real time. Texas got stand your ground laws, and when you're getting attacked by a whole crew snatching your property while beating you down, the law generally says you got the right to protect yourself. Defense gonna argue he feared for his life, which ain't hard to prove when you're on the ground with multiple bodies on you. They gonna say he didn't start nothing, didn't instigate, just defended himself when cornered. In Texas especially, if someone trying to take your property by force, you can use deadly force to stop them. That's in the books. But here's where it gets tricky for All-Star Jr., the prosecution. Gonna focus heavy on those wild shots. R. Wilkins said he was shooting randomly with no aim, just letting it fly. When you start firing recklessly in a packed restaurant, that changes the whole narrative from self-defense to reckless endangerment real quick. They gon' argue once you start shooting without control in a crowded space, you ain't defending yourself no more. You endangering everybody in that building. Plus, they're gonna examine if the threat was still active when shots got fired. If his chain's already gone and dudes backing off, continuing to shoot weakens the self-defense claim significantly. The attempted body charge looking real possible based on how many times Ben 10 got hit. Multiple shots to the upper body ain't no warning shots or trying to scare somebody off. That's potentially intent to cause serious harm or worse. Same with the second victim catching multiple rounds in different areas. Prosecutors gonna paint that as going beyond defense into retaliation, or worse. They're gonna say even if the initial fear was justified, the response was excessive and crossed legal boundaries. If Ben 10 don't make it, whole case transforms immediately into a body case, and self-defense becomes way harder to argue when someone dead. Even in Texas, with favorable self-defense laws, taking a life requires proving the force was absolutely necessary and proportional. Random shooting that results in a fatality, that's going to be tough to justify even with the robbery context. The Instagram post is going to haunt All-Star Jr. either way though. Defense attorneys probably losing sleep over those because it shows zero remorse, looks like celebration, completely contradicts any "I feared for my life" narrative. Prosecution going to use those posts to argue he wasn't scared or traumatized. The J. Prince Jr. connection complicates everything too. If prosecutors can prove J. Prince Jr. was involved with the crew that tried robbing All-Star Jr., that adds a whole different layer. But it also potentially strengthens the self-defense argument. Getting jumped by people connected to one of Houston's most powerful figures could justify extreme fear for your safety. Houston PD still building their case, witnesses getting interviewed, footage getting analyzed. Whatever charges come down, gonna depend heavily on what cameras caught, what witnesses say, and whether prosecutors believe they can prove intent beyond reasonable doubt. All-Star Jr. posting like he untouchable while investigation active definitely ain't helping his legal position though. Real reckless energy that could cost him everything depending on how this plays out.